आपका स्वागत है विजन एजुकेशन में। फ्रेंड्स, आज हम आपको मिलवाएंगे एक रिनाउंड फिजिसिस्ट जिन्होंने क्वांटम फिजिक्स पर और इसका ह्यूमन लाइफ पर क्या इम्पैक्ट होता है, इन सब पर बड़े पैमाने पर काफी कुछ लिखा है। इन्हें क्वांटम डॉक्टर के नाम से भी जाना जाता है। जी हाँ, हम बात कर रहे हैं डॉक्टर अमित गोस्वामी की।
We have a very distinguished guest in our studio today, eminent scientist Dr. Amit Goswami. He is a renowned physicist and he has popularized quantum physics in the world. He has extensively researched and written about the quantum theory as such. He had his doctorate from Calcutta University and he has been teaching in the Department of Physics, Oregon University from 1968 to 1997. He is a member of the Oregon Institute of Theoretical Science. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah. Quantum physics, Big Bang theory, then Einstein, Dr. Hawkins, all that. But can you explain quantum physics in a simple way for our audience, please?
The reason that quantum physics is giving us a worldview is not all that connection with cosmos in that Big Bang kind of way that Dr. Hawking made famous.
Yeah.
That is actually no accomplishment at all from a human interest point of view. Of course, the universe is very interesting. Much more interesting to human beings is human consciousness. And this is where the basic quantum physics, not the very high energy application of quantum physics that Dr. Hawking did, but the basic quantum physics becomes absolutely relevant. What quantum physics says is that there are two domains of reality. One is the domain of potentiality, where there is only one thing. Very difficult to understand unless you have a background with Vedanta, that the Hindus developed some 5,000 years ago. You have to get to that philosophy in order to get to the bottom of what does it mean that there is a domain of reality where everything is one, no distinction, everything is instantly connected. How can that be? Yet quantum physics compels you to believe that, because we now have experimental data that supports the quantum prediction that two objects can communicate at infinite speed, which is impossible to do in space and time. Therefore, they got to do it taking advantage of the domain outside of space and time. And that is the domain that quantum physics predicts as the domain where possibilities exist. Consciousness chooses from these possibilities and in that way create the reality that we experience in space and time.
No, actually from the time of Max Planck and later on with distinguished scientists, has it become any simpler or is it getting more complicated?
No, actually it's getting simpler. Initially it was a lot of paradoxes. Nobody was able to understand it. But when the mathematical equation is discovered by Werner Heisenberg and then Erwin Schrödinger in 1925-26, then everything became clear. The reason that clarity has never been acknowledged by bulk of physicists is not because quantum physics is difficult, but because the physicists insist to fit quantum physics in a Procrustean bed, which is just not fit for quantum physics. They either chop off the leg or they pull the people to fit the bed. That is called the Procrustean bed in the Greek mythology. How can you do that? The point is that a being is a being. Quantum physics says clearly there is the domain of potentiality, however hard it is to acknowledge with the worldview that most scientists have, which is called materialism. There is only one world, space and time. To concede that there is another world would be for the scientists to acknowledge that no philosophical work that existed in the East long before science was developed that is superior, that their own science is supporting this field. This is very hard for many Western scientists, and they are the majority of scientists, of course, today. It is very hard for them to accept. And unfortunately, other countries are not always very apropos to the newest development that is taking place. Neuroscience, by the way, completely supports the quantum view of the world. Neuroscience says that yes, there is in the brain two ways that we operate. One is very local way, so that completely fits the materialist picture of the world. But the other, the brain, all over the brain lights up. The different parts of the brain becomes all of a sudden synchronous. They all vibrate in synchrony. The evidence for it is that there is a large number of waves that are high frequency, gamma waves. They come into the picture, so there is no doubt about it. We can measure this state, and that state is a state of unity, obviously. Like the ancients predicted, that there is a antaratman. There is an atman inside. Deep inside the human being, there is a self, which is universal.
You mean the soul?
Well, we call it soul, or antaratman is the Sanskrit word.
Yes.
Deep inside the God within. And that now is being verified by...
Can we ever prove that there is soul or antaratma with the help of quantum?
That's what I'm saying. The neuroscience data is there.
It is.
My newest book, Quantum Neuroscience, will have all this data, will have all these explanations, and even before that, of course, I predicted all this back in 1993 in my book, Self-Aware Universe. So I've been saying that for 20 years, and now the verification is there finally, which is wonderful.
I would like to ask, when and how did you realize that there is a quantum physics kind of thing that you should practice in your life?
Well, this is a good story. I always like telling this story. I was at a conference on nuclear physics, and I was an invited speaker, so initially I was delighted. But when I gave my speech, I thought I didn't do a very good job. And then other speakers were speaking, and I started getting very jealous that they are better, and they're giving better speeches, and they're getting better receptions from the questioners. So that jealousy just stayed with me. Then 1 o'clock in the morning, I found that I'm still jealous. So I got disgusted with myself, and I go outside. The conference was taking place on an ocean beach. And when I stood outside and the ocean air hit me, all of a sudden I get this thought, unexpected. Why do I live this way? And the answer came inside immediately that I don't have to. I can live in a way that is integrated between my life and my livelihood, integrating thinking, living, and livelihood. So that integration became my goal, and that opened me to quantum physics, and rest is history.
So initially when you started with quantum physics, did your family and nearby and relative understood that the way you were going? And
what was happening is that I was using quantum mathematics in a very in an area of physics which has no relevance to how we live as a human being. Quantum physics is done mostly that way. I cannot blame myself too much that at that time people were not imaginative enough to take the message of quantum physics further. Then in 1982 there was an experiment done which proved this thing that I was just talking, that how two objects can interact. Once they interact, they become entangled in such a way that they can communicate at infinite speed, which is impossible to do in space and time. So how do they communicate? And it turns out quantum physics is saying they communicate through this domain of potentiality. And that experiment converted a lot of us who were pretty obtuse, but that experiment woke me up at least. Within 3 years, I had this insight that we have to reformulate quantum physics, integrating science and this very spiritual notion that there is a reality beyond, which is the reality of unity, where only oneness, like the Upanishad said, Sarvam Khalidam Brahman, there is only oneness, everything is one. Now we are understanding that everything is one, not in our experiences, there we become dual, but when we are not in experience, when we are in the unconscious, then everything is one, Brahman.
If I talk about Indian society, how would quantum physics help build the society?
Well, This is a very, very good question. What has happened to us Indians, I grew up here, so don't consider me a foreigner. I grew up here, I'm thoroughly an Indian as well as thoroughly a Western. And from my view, whenever I come back to India, I feel very pained because I have seen the decline of the Indian mindset from the 1940s when I was growing up and the 50s versus now it is 21st century and it is no longer connected to the roots, I'm sorry to say. Very few people are connected, and even those who are connected, they are connected intellectually. They are not connected from their heart. Indian people do not know their heritage. That's a sad truth. So if they have to hear it from a person who has done and lived much of his life in the West, so be it. I am now coming back to India, work here, establish a university in Jaipur thanks to my friends, and we'll see how much we can go to re-establish a connection for Indians now with all the roots from which Indian culture originated. Will that be good for India? It will be good for the world. I tell you, it will be good for everyone. Today we live in a chaotic world where we have lost all sense of morality and dignity. This is not human being that we live anymore. We live like machines. We live like cats and dogs, worse than machines, because machines don't have negative emotional brain circuits. We do. So we act like machines, we cannot change, and then we act from these negative emotions which machines even don't have. So we kill each other in addition. That's the state of living that we have in India and elsewhere. This got to change, and we can change it by using the same philosophy that we formulated in 5,000 years ago. Now quantum physics is rediscovering it, neuroscience is establishing it. We have a very good opportunity to be heard. And so I'm very deeply grateful that you are making it possible to take this message to the world.
Like this is returning to spirituality. Then what about science, scientific thinking, rational thinking? Because India is now having serious problems because of superstitions, rational, lack of rational thinking, scientific approach to things, including rumor mongering. So
this is precisely why I am here. I'm here to say that this is all scientific. This philosophical thinking that existed in India, I appreciate what you are saying. I completely appreciate that much dogma got introduced into it. The original philosophical thinking is completely scientific. And then a lot of dogma got mixed into it, like caste system and all that. That's all dogma. That's an overlay which did not belong. But people did it anyway. This is how spirituality got corrupted all over the world. The same thing happened to Christianity, same thing happened to Islam. We shouldn't feel ashamed of it. It's just human nature. When we don't understand something, we impose things on it which we do understand but which is not correct. But now with science, we have a great opportunity to see the truth as the ancient rishis saw. And that truth is very scientific, very rational. The rationality was not understood at that time. But now with advances of science, quantum physics, we can understand it. It's now crystal clear. People who come to my workshops, they start almost in disbelief. They start shaking their head that we finally can understand the meaning of our heritage.
So how do you link quantum theory with medicine, conventional medicine? And
this is the very interesting part of it, because medicine, as is considered by Western allopathic system, is purely machine medicine. It just applies to physical body. But we in India have always known through the success of the Ayurvedic system that medicine requires an awareness of the prana, of the pranic body. So besides the physical body, every physical organ is connected with the pranic organ. This is what we can establish in quantum science. In quantum science we can prove that biology needs a pranic body. Why? Because organs have hardware, but the hardware cannot run properly with purposive function without a software. What gives it the software? Even Western biologists agree that the software is not part of the cell. Software does not exist in the genes. It's epigenetic, outside of the gene. So where do the software exist and how does the software come about? Consciousness makes the software with the help of what I call liturgical fields. And these liturgical fields is the movement that we feel as vital energy or prana or feeling. So when we take that into account, we get a new medicine, which is a combination of what is called conventional medicine and what is called alternative medicine.
What efforts are being done to make part of education this quantum activism?
This is a crucial question. How do we educate our young people? Because we have gone backwards. And surely as a journalist you are quite aware of the fact that the excessive use of information processing machines, namely cell phones and computers and social media, has brought the attention span of kids. Even 2 decades ago, it was like 1.5 seconds, 1.5 minutes, and now it is 6 seconds. 6 seconds. How did that happen? Because students don't like to get bored. Young people, as soon as they start getting bored, they say, "Mommy, I'm going to look at my cell phone. I'm going to check my email. I'm going to look at my Facebook." And so what has happened is that they cannot but pay attention anymore to their schooling and the subjects they're supposed to learn, to what we call meaning processing. Without processing meaning, we cannot learn anything. So kids are basically growing up, they're getting degrees, but they don't know anything anymore. They know how to retrieve information, so they can do a job by constantly referring to the internet, but they don't know anything. They don't know the meaning of what they are doing, just like machines. Machines can do a lot of stuff, but they don't know what is going on, right? So what happens in this culture? Only a few people do know what they're going on. They are trained differently, and so it's an elitist society. So if you are looking for an elitist society, which most societies are unfortunately looking for, they not only they are looking for, they have more or less established it. What is happening is that 10% of all people are ruling the rest of us, just like in the feudal times. In the meantime, we had a taste of what democracy is like, when 75% of us partake in national affairs, in the affairs important to building democracy and capitalism. So going back again to the Dark Ages, is this what we want to do? This is why I want to change the educational system completely. I say instead of the 3 R's, we should bring in 6 I's. To spell it out, 3 R's are reading, writing, and arithmetic. And listen to the 6 I's that quantum science tells us that you have to emphasize in education. Starts with inspiration, intention, intuition, imagination, insight, and implementation.
Adding to boredom, I would like to ask one question. That each day, each of us think like the whole day we did something, but at the end of the day, what actually we did, and the next day we have to repeat the same task. So how can quantum physics help us to make it more meaningful?
Exactly. This is the question. In the Bhagavad-Gita, there are 2 lines, 1 verse with 2 lines in the 6th chapter. You have to understand the meaning of it. The gist of it is that the wise sees that real action follows non-action. What does that mean? It means that the real action, inspired action, comes from silence, comes from non-action, comes from us not doing anything. What happens then? Then the unconscious, which is the unity consciousness, the domain of potentiality, unconscious brings the action. New potentiality is being born. And that's how things become interesting. The process is called creativity. We just have forgotten it. We Indians cannot be blamed too much. Frankly, we were under the Muslims for 1,000 years and then under the British for 300 years. So we have forgotten all that because those people, the conquerors, they insisted, of course, that we stay ignorant and we cannot do very much. Now we have been free for about 75 years. We have we are gradually waking up to creativity.
Sir, I have one question about the love. I mean, you have been interacting with Indian scientists, people of science in this country. What do you think? Where would you place the Indian, scientific experiment?
The scientists that come to me,
research,
scientists that work with me, I'm very proud to say that they are quite creative. Amazingly, the creativity is not encouraged in the universities here. People have to wear that materialist straitjacket. Literally, it is a straitjacket. You cannot move. Materialism says there is no meaning, there is no feeling, there is no intuition. So how can you be spiritual? How can you be creative under those circumstances? It's an accident that people are still creative, although they create only, of course, with sensory apparatus. But this is why. Indian scientists are craving for something new. Indian scientists are craving for something specially connecting their roots to the modern.
Can you explain the concept of the new university you are planning in Jaipur?
Yes, I would love to. So here we have, I must mention Dinesh Kukreja and Anil Sinha. Anil Sinha works with me, he's a great visionary. And Dinesh Kukreja, what can I say about him? He is a visionary businessman. And this businessman in Jaipur, he has seen to it that he wants to do business in a purposeful way. He wants to do business in a meaningful way. So he has given us his support, which he badly needed. Everything needs resources. And so he has come through. And so now Valentina Anisar, myself and Anil Sinha will be the teachers of a first-year certification program that we have set up in Jaipur. It will consist of 10 days in August, September, starting on 31st August this year to 9th of September, then again in February 1 to 10. And then rest of the program will be given on the internet. So we'll use modern technology, internet, because it's cheaper, and we find that even if we are teaching 20 days in the year, but we will do it in such an intense way, such an intelligent way, such a communicative way, such an inspiring way, that people will get what they need to get. And then they already are connected with us. In quantum physics, we say they are entangled. This teaching from an entangled mindset is something that nobody has experimented with, but we already have. You come to one of my workshops and you will know what I mean by entangled education. You once and forever become entangled with us teachers, and it is such a unique experience of learning, because you are learning by being one. I'm not kidding, I'm literally saying you learn by being one with the other. And so we hope that this 20 days of inspired learning will add such intensity to the rest of the year that even in 1 year we can make some real transformative effort in the mindset.
All the best, sir. So one more question. How your books are doing?
Well, considering that they are quantum physics, and I cannot write
the
well.
titles are very fascinating, interesting.
Yes, that's a scare people.
God
right?
is not that.
The very word physics is very scary to most people. So considering that, Sulfur Universe have sold, been read by probably millions of people, but have also sold in the order of 100,000 copies, so that's pretty good.
Thank you very much, sir. It has been a very illuminating discussion on quantum physics and the way it has worked and it is working in the life of human beings, in the future of human life. Thank you very much.
विजन एजुकेशन में आज के लिए इतना ही। कल फिर हाजिर होंगे कुछ और एजुकेशन की खबरों और नई मस्ती की पाठशाला के साथ। तब तक मुझे दीजिए इजाजत। नमस्कार।